One of the great prophetic texts in the Hebrew scriptures is Zechariah. By way of type, that points, I believe, to Jesus Christ. Zechariah's own experience when he was asked when he was asked that his ministry be put into a certain value. They valued him at 30 pieces of silver. And he took the silver and threw it into the temple treasury. It is significant that he, I believe, becomes a type of Jesus Christ, who was betrayed by Judas for 30 pieces of silver. And Judas later then throws the 30 pieces of silver into the temple, and it ends up not in the temple, but to buy the potter's field. The Hebrew word yatsar or yotzer actually means potter, or it can mean treasury, having a double meaning. It is interesting to me that Judas, for 30 pieces of silver, sells the Lord and then throws the silver into the temple area with the intention of it ending up in the temple treasury. However, it ends up to buy the field of the potter, which is for the poor. So I believe this becomes an amazing type in Zechariah's experience of Jesus Christ and his betrayal. And so we want to pick up those verses 12 and 13, and look at them to see what the Hebrew says and how it's applied in the New Testament to Jesus Christ. Va'omer alehem im tov be'enechem chavu shechari va'et lo chadalu va'yishkalu et Sechari Shalushim Kasef. That is, they weighed, it's looking at, if I'm translating it, and I said unto them, if it is good in your eyes, then give me my wage, and if not, cease. And they weighed my wage as 30 pieces of silver. As we look at this text grammatically and then by way of commentary, notice it begins, Va'omar aleihim. The vav here is a conjunction meaning and omer is a cow imperfect, first common singular from the root amar. Notice the consonant of the root has elided or dropped out, and we have the prefix and the aleph showing we're looking at a first person common singular. And notice the vav here is a vav conversive or a vav consecutive. So, and I said, and so we have the imperfect putting it into the past, alehem, unto them. Notice ale is a preposition meaning unto, and him is a third masculine plural pronominal suffix meaning them. So we could translate it, and I said unto them, im tov be'enechem, if it is good in your eyes. Notice im is the particle meaning if, and tov is the adjective masculine singular meaning good. So we could translate it, if it seems a good thing, understood, in your eyes. Be'enechem is the following words. Notice be is the preposition in. Enechem is a noun masculine plural with a second masculine plural pronominal suffix meaning you. So it is rendered in your eyes. Chavu sechari. Weigh my price or my wages. Notice chavu is a cow imperative, second masculine plural from yahav, to give. So notice here the yod has dropped off, and we end up in this root with chavu. So we would render this word as give. It's an imperative. So give sechari, give my wages. Notice the noun singular here with a first common singular pronominal suffix meaning my wages. So give me my wages, ve'im lo, and if not, notice im here means if, and of course preceded by and, the conjunction. Following this particle im, we have lo, the negative particle meaning not. So it is rendered, if not, chadalu, that is, cease. And notice, chadalu is a cow imperative, second masculine plural from chadal, and it means to cease. So we could render this as simply cease. And so they're going to weigh his value. And as we move on, vayishkalu et sechari. And notice they weighed my wages. Vayishkalu is from the root shakal, meaning to weigh. And notice the stem, it is a cow imperfect, third masculine plural from shakal. Notice it has a vav conversive or a vav consecutive. So again, we would render it, and they weighed et sechari. They weighed my wages. Et is the sign of the direct object, and sechari means my wages. From sechar, meaning wage, followed by your first common singular pronominal suffix in the hirik yod. And sheloshim means 30. Basically, we could render this 30 shekels, understood, of silver. And sheloshim is a numeral, masculine plural, meaning 30. So 30 shekels, understood, we could say, of silver. And notice kasef is simply your masculine singular noun, meaning silver. So as we would translate it, and I said unto them, if it is good in your eyes, give my wage, give me my wage. And if not, cease. And they weighed my wage as 30 pieces of silver, is the way I would render it. Now, when we think about the interpretation and application of this text, notice Zechariah, the shepherd, who is representing the shepherd, the final shepherd, we could say, in the New Testament, that is Jesus, asks for his wages to be given to him. He is evaluated and paid. And when he is paid, it is really the value of a servant or a slave. So it is really a very small wage. What they were saying is, you are really not worth that much money, Zechariah. He is viewed as worthless by the people who are weighing his worth. It is significant that this not only happened to Zechariah, but also becomes a type of what happens to Jesus Christ. We are told in Matthew 26 that one of the 12 going out, that is Judas Iscariot in verse 14, went to the high priest and said, what are you willing to give me that I might deliver him over? And they placed before him 30 pieces of silver. It says, from then on, he was seeking an occasion that he might deliver him over. And so here, Zechariah clearly, I believe, becomes a type of Jesus Christ, who is sold for 30 pieces of silver in the betrayal of Judas by Jesus, or of Jesus, to the high priest. So we have the betrayal of Jesus by Judas to the high priest, I think fulfilled, and we could say the antitype in the New Testament fulfillment in Jesus Christ. But then it goes on. Vayomer Adonai Eli, hashlichehu el hayotzer achad hayakar asher yakarti me'alehem ve'ekha shalushim hakesef ve'ashlik oto beit Adonai el hayotzer. Notice in verse 13, we have a further statement then of what happened to the 30 pieces of silver. The Lord said unto me, cast it into the treasury. The magnificent of price, the godly price that I was valued from them. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and cast it into the house of the Lord, unto the treasury. Now, when we look at this grammatically, it is also very interesting and very much, I think, pointing to what happened in the New Testament. Notice Vayomer Yod He Vav He, Vayomer Adonai. Again, we have the verb amar, and we have it in the cow imperfect third masculine singular with a vav consecutive. Notice here, the verb has three radicals preceded by a yod, which indicates that we're looking at a cow imperfect. And whenever we have the verb in the imperfect in Hebrew, notice we do have a prefix, and this is what we're seeing in this cow imperfect. And by the way, in Hebrew, we have two different types of time. We have perfect and imperfect. Perfect more is looking more at completed action, imperfect at continual action. So here the imperfect is what we have, and the Lord said. However, the vav here again is what we have called a vav conversive or a vav consecutive. It is converting the imperfect and making it into a perfect or a past. Here we have the conversion from future to past, and the vav then is turning the imperfect over and making it, like we said, into the past. Instead of, and God will say, we render this with the imperfect as the past. The imperfect future that would normally be continued action if it was by itself, yomer, is now put into the past by this vav consecutive. So we render it, and God said. Notice also, just a minor point here, that under the vav, you have a pathak followed by a dogish in the yod, which means historically that you probably had another vav, and the second vav assimilated into the yod, causing the dogish forte. So vav yomer became vayomer with the dogish forte in the yod. Also, notice here you have an o vowel over or after the yod. So here we ask the problem, what is going on in the root vayomer? This is what we call a pei aleph verb. And in the pei aleph verb, what probably happened historically was a dissimilation from yamru to yamru to and then to yomer. In other words, what we're probably seeing is a change in these pei aleph verbs with the quiescence or aleph being quiet, and moving to an O vowel, a holum. And this happens in all of these, what we call pay aleph verbs. So at any rate, going on, and he said, the Lord said, and notice Yod He Vav He is the proper name for Yahweh, unto me, Eli. El is a preposition, Eli, and the first common singular pronominal suffix is added to me. And then we have the imperative, hashlichehu. Notice hashlichehu is from shalak, and it means to cast. And here we have a he prefix with an a vowel. And so we're looking at a hifil, a causative stem, second masculine singular, followed by a third masculine singular pronominal suffix, hashlichehu. So we would translate it as cast it, el hayotzer, unto, and notice, very interesting here, unto, we could render it the potter. Notice el is the preposition unto, and hayotzer, we have the definite article followed by yotzer. Notice we have the holum vav followed by a tseri, so we're looking at a participial form, a cow active participle from yatsar, meaning to create or form. So we can render this as unto the treasury, because it can mean treasury as well as potter, or unto the potter. The word then can have a double meaning, a double entendre, a double meaning. Here at the first level, no doubt looking at the temple treasury. And then it carries to a double meaning in the Gospels, including not only the treasury, but the potter's field. And then we move on. Notice achad asher yakarti. That is eder, I should say. Eder asher yakarti. Eder is a noun masculine singular meaning lordly, and ha is the definite article, and so we have the lordly price. Yakar means price, and notice it's a noun singular meaning, as we said, price. So we could render it the lordly price. There's sort of irony here, I believe. Asher yakarti, which you have, or which I have been appraised. Notice asher is your relative pronoun, and yakarti is a cal perfect, first common singular from yakar, to be appraised. So we could translate it, which I have been appraised, or which I have been paid off, with me alehem, and from rendering this from them. Notice me is your preposition meaning from. By the way, here the noon has dropped out, and we have compensatory lengthening, min alehem becoming me alehem, where we lengthen from a hirik to a tseri. And furthermore, hem is the third masculine plural pronominal suffix, meaning them. So we would render this as from upon them. The ekha, notice, and I took. Here we have a cow imperfect, first common singular from lakach, which means to take. Notice the lamed here has dropped off, and also it is, we have another vav conversive, or a vav consecutive. And notice one other thing, instead of the pathak under the vav, we have the comets by what we call compensatory lengthening. Since the aleph could not take a doubling, we then compensate by lengthening it to a comets from a pathak. And then furthermore, sheloshim, or sheloshim, or shelishim, notice shelishim means 30 shekels of. And then we have, along with this numerical masculine plural, meaning 30 shekels, we have ha-kesef, meaning of silver. And notice the definite article, meaning the, and kesef is a noun, masculine singular, meaning silver. So we would translate it as the silver. And notice he goes on to say, va'ashlik oto, and I cast it. Notice ashlik is from the root shalak, meaning to cast. And here we have a hifil, imperfect, first common singular, from shalak. Notice that we have the a vowel, the ashlik, followed by the I, the thematic vowel, in the two thematic vowels indicating a hifil stem. So I caused it to be cast, and notice oto is the sign of the direct object with a third masculine singular pronominal suffix, meaning it. So I caused it to be cast. In other words, here we have the object of ashlik in oto. And then Beit Adonai follows El Hayotzer. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and I caused it to be cast into the house of the Lord unto the treasury. Notice Beit Adonai, Beit is a noun masculine singular meaning, and we must supply in before it, in the house. Here we have two nouns in construct of the Lord, Yod He Vav He, followed by El Hayotzer. El is a preposition meaning into, and notice Hayotzer, we have the definite article followed by Yotzer, which is the cow active participle from the root yatsar, and it means here treasury. So we could translate the phrase into the treasury, but also the word yotzer can mean potter, and so we could render it unto the treasury or unto the potter. It could have a double meaning. So translating it, I would render it this way. And the Lord said unto me, cast it into the treasury, the magnificence of price, the magnificence of price, the godly price. Here we have irony, which I was valued from them. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and I cast it into the house of the Lord unto the treasury. When I look at the application of this in terms of New Testament belief and teaching, notice Zechariah is pictured casting the 30 pieces of silver in disdain into the temple treasury. It is significant that the same thing is spoken of with reference to Judas. We are told in Matthew 27, 3-9, then when Judas, the one who betrayed him, saw that he was judged, feeling sorry, he returned the 30 pieces of silver to the high priest and to the elders, saying, I have sinned and betrayed innocent blood. And they said, what is that to us? You see to it. Then we're told he threw the silver into the temple and departed and went away, and then he committed suicide. Then the high priest, when they took the silver, said, it is an unlawful to cast it into the court, since it is the price of blood. So when they took counsel, they brought it to the field of the potter for a burial place for strangers. And we are told it was called the field of blood unto this day in the Gospels. It is significant, I believe, that we have here a clear double fulfillment, a double entendre, a double meaning. From the single meaning of Zechariah, who threw the money into the temple treasury, now we see Judas turning and taking the 30 pieces of silver and throwing it into the temple treasury area. But the priest will not put it into the treasury, since it was the price of blood. And so they used it for burying a potter's field, or excuse me, for buying a potter's field, which would become a burial place for strangers. So we have a double meaning in the word yotzer, one meaning treasury, in which the effort was made by Judas to put it into the temple treasury, but it ends up in buying the potter's field. And we have the same account in the book of Acts 1, where Judas, again, we are told in the context of the disciples ordaining Matthias, that Judas' money bought a field, and falling headlong, he burst in the midst, and his inwards was poured out, Acts says, so that the field was called in the Aramaic the field of blood. So Zechariah here becomes a type of Jesus Christ, who is the antitype sold for 30 pieces of silver. What an amazing, I'm going to say, type, antitype that we see in Jesus Christ, and that one who is valued with no value whatsoever was the Son of God, the God-man, who was the eternal creator of the world. He was willing to go through this rejection for us so that we could become part of his people. And so he became our Savior through not only his betrayal, but his death and resurrection. And as a result, a fountain was opened in which we could have redemption through faith in him as our rejected and yet now exalted Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.